Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Pam from Pam's Crafty Corner. Welcome to my little corner of YouTube where I talk about all things craft related in my life that I do. It's mostly a channel about cross stitch. However, I do enjoy lots of other crafts as well, including crochet, knitting, a little bit of quilting, some paper crafts all thrown in. But the majority of what I share is by far my cross stitch. If you are a new viewer, welcome to the channel. If you stick around and like what you see, feel free to subscribe. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for sticking with me. I haven't been exactly a regular poster to my YouTube channel for the last couple of years, just some sporadic posts, but I have been trying to get back into the habit of doing that. And my last video, I think, was 3 weeks ago or 3 or 4 weeks ago. So much better. So a little bit of a life update, I guess. Summer here was fantastic. I finished off in August with a little bit of leftover vacation time at the end of the summer. Went back to work for a week and then started teaching a dispatching course for new employees at work. That's going to be about 3 weeks, I guess, of me working 8 to 4 Monday to Friday, which is not my favorite schedule, as everybody knows, but as I prefer my night shifts. But I'm really looking forward to completing the dispatching course with these new people and having some competent operators working with us that can share our workload, because we've been short-staffed for way too long, and seems like I've done an excessive amount of training this year since January, but the numbers are up and work life is a little more balanced. So without further ado, let's jump into my cross stitching. Most of the pieces I've worked on for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Oh, of course, my little Pom is going to start barking. Hang on. So here's the little culprit. No. Here she is in all of her fluffy glory. Say hello, Mitsu. Oh, yeah. 7.5 pounds of terror. Aren't ya? Yeah? What you got in your fur? So this is the littlest terror in our house. 7.5 pounds, and she definitely rules the roost. We also have a 50-pound boxer puppy that's 11 months old, and she's the one in charge, not the boxer. She keeps the boxer in line, don't ya? Yeah. So anyway, the boxer puppy is being put out right now to do her business, and this little one is not happy about it. That's why she's barking, because she can hear people outside, can't you? So I'm going to put her down and give this another attempt. No. So the first cross stitch piece we're going to look at is a Heaven and Earth design. It's called 4 Seasons. I will insert a photo here so you can see what it's supposed to look like. I started this one a few years ago doing tent stitch, and I really didn't like the tent stitch because, to me, I don't know, there was just something about it. It didn't feel like it was complete, and I wasn't enjoying it as much. So I restarted it this year, and I am doing it 1/1 full cross on 28 count fabric. This is how much I have done so far. I'm losing the light here now because it's the evening, but there we go. So this is the top left corner of the piece. I managed to finish the diagonal that I was working on in here, and I went out and started the next diagonal down. And that's what I've gotten done so far. You can see how tiny those stitches are. And I am enjoying working on this piece on the diagonal. I'm doing 10 spaces over on the diagonal. You don't get any tension lines in your work when you work that way, but it allows me to fill in the confetti without having to go all over the place and on such tiny fabric. Because I don't grid, it helps with the counting as well for the spaces. So that's 4 seasons. The next big piece I worked on is, of course, my Christmas Carol piece. I'll insert a photo of that as well. This is my focus piece for this year. I am doing pretty good progress on it. I started it several years ago, and it will probably be a couple of years before I'm done, but you'll have to excuse the hoop marks because I've been working almost exclusively in my hoop, in my hoop instead of a Q-snap. But here we go. Here is a Christmas Carol so far. I got some more progress in on the building up here. And this week when I pulled it out, I started working on this section and started filling in the awning. And I'm getting some pretty good progress there. So I'm really enjoying this piece. I am thinking that I started doing diagonal here on this page, because this would be a page coming down here and across here. I started doing diagonal on this page, and I'm tempted to keep going with the diagonal method on this piece as well, instead of doing it, you know, color completion on the page, because I am enjoying that diagonal stitching. One thing that I did notice with my full coverage, when I worked on the Elvis piece for my mother, that was part of a kit and all the threads were pre-cut. And with having to change your colors all the time, winding floss on and off the bobbin and having to cut my threads, that kind of takes a bit of time. So what I started doing is I took some lengths, not all, but I took some lengths for every single color that's in the piece and maybe cut off, I don't know, 4 lengths at the 4 pieces at the right length that I wanted it. And this is the right length that I would want it if I was stitching it over 2 with 2 strands of thread and I wanted to fold my thread in half to make a loop start. Or I can snip this length in half and just have one piece this length for stitching 1 over 1. So, and that way all of my other floss is still on my bobbins in my boxes with a master set, and these are just for this piece. I have it packed in the project bag with it, and I can just pull a piece off at a time, stitch with it, and when I'm done with this, any of the floss that's left over is already pre-cut the right length that I like to use it, so I can just wind these back on my bobbins. So that's what I started doing, and I have to say I'm enjoying having it set up that way. So you can teach an old dog new tricks, see? Even though I've been stitching for years, sometimes it's nice to change things up. Okay, so that's a Christmas Carol. The next piece I worked on is somewhat of a full coverage. It's a piece designed by Debbie Patrick, and it's called Alamo Square. I'll insert a picture of it here. And what I did with this, now I'm not sure if I had it all done the last time or not, because I can't quite remember. But if not, what I did was, I believe I had all of the back stitching finished. Oops, let me fold the fabric a bit better so it's easier to hold. There we go. I had all the back stitching finished on this blue house. So this time I went in and started working on the house next door, and I got pretty good progress. I've got lots of stitches filled in. I even got into the shrubbery in the front and the stairs. Really pleased with how that's stitching up. And again, this is a Debbie Patrick piece. These are out of print, but you can certainly still find them online. She's just a fabulous designer. And I am stitching this on 18 count Aida, 2/1. Well, I also have plans to do a couple other Debbie Patrick designs for sure. And I already did the Winchester Mystery House. That was also stitched on 18 count Aida. So I'll be doing all of my Debbie Patricks on the same count fabric. The design style and the fact that you need nice crisp lines for your back stitching. The Aida suits the charts better, I think. That's just my opinion. I mean, you can stitch them on whatever you want to stitch them on, but I personally like the Aida. So I'm doing that on 18 count 2/1 with the call for DMC. And as I said, I'll keep working on this. I will finish the stitching on that house and then complete the back stitch on that house. Because the way these charts are, there is a fair bit of back stitching in them, and I don't like to leave all the back stitching till the end. So I'm doing it, stitch a house, do the back stitch, stitch a house, do the back stitch, because there's 4 houses in this chart. And then what I'll do is I'll do all of the background skyline of the city at the end, and then do the back stitch for that. So there you go. That's Alamo Square. I have one other piece that I worked on since you saw me last, and I had 2 finishes the last time you saw me. So I felt like starting another piece. Not that I didn't have any other things to stitch on, but I felt like I wanted a full coverage piece on 18 count, and I wanted something with vibrant colors. I had this Heaven and Earth chart downloaded when it was posted as a freebie on their website, and it's the Mini Night Cafe by Leonid Afremov. So I'll insert a picture of what it looks like here. So I cut all my threads for it and sorted them. Just get a load of these colors. So vibrant and bright and just stunning. Lots of oranges and bright yellows, greens, vibrant blues, reds. Yeah, really, really pretty colors. So I've cut all my threads for this one. I'm stitching it on 18 count Aida, 2/1, and here's my start. I mean, the colors are just phenomenal. Really, really enjoying that. Such a beautiful piece. I am also stitching this one, as you can see, on the diagonal, but if I'm finishing off a thread, I will go over and add, you know, the extra little peppers of other stitches where I need to, instead of just, you know, parking it sort of thing. So there you go. That's my new start. Really loving this piece, and I'm looking forward to getting back to it as well. And 18 count Aida is, for me, 2/1 on 18 count Aida is the sweet spot for full coverage. It gives you really nice coverage, and you still don't sacrifice the detail. Okay. So that's it for the cross stitch. I've got a couple of other projects that I'll share with you that are crochet projects, and I have a little update on my Hexi quilt that I'm making. So let me grab those pieces. Okay, so the first thing actually that I'm going to show you is the progress on the Hexi quilt. It's easy to travel with this piece, so I've just been taking a little box to work with my Hexies, some papers, needle and thread, and my pre-cut squares of fabric. And I've been spending my time in between work and on my lunch breaks sewing and making some Hexies, and then I've been taking the Hexies and then sewing them together in strips of 5, and then sewing those strips of 5 into little blocks. So the blocks look like this. They're usually about 5 Hexies wide and about 5 strips tall. Because again, this is easy to transport back and forth to work, and I can toss this in my work bag, fold it up. And so once I get the Hexies all put together, I pull the papers out of the inside ones so it's more flexible and easy to fold. And I put those in my bag and bring them home. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 more blocks done. And these I can now add to my larger piece that I have for the quilt, which I don't know when I'll ever get that finished. It's large enough that I don't know when that's going to happen. So I'll grab that and show it to you. So this piece, I haven't actually added any additional blocks to this since you would have seen it last, but it is pretty large. Where's the bottom? There's the bottom. Here we go. Okay, and there's the other side. So it's getting quite large. It's about the size of a very small lap blanket at the moment, I guess. But I want it to be a quilt large enough for the bed. So, and I've jokingly said that I want this to be a king size quilt. If that's the case, God help me, because I don't know if I'll live long enough to hand sew a king size Hexi quilt, but gosh darn it, I'm gonna give it a try. So I will have to add these blocks at home now to the quilt top, and I'll just continue for the next few weeks to take my Hexies back and forth to work with me, and I'll probably have another block done to add with these. So that's the Hexi Quilt project, English paper piecing, which is so easy to do and so much fun because it's relaxing. I don't need to follow a pattern. It's just hand sewing. I'll put that back in the bag after. It's just hand sewing, and it's so easy and so pleasurable, like, to put that together. I just love it. Last project I'm going to talk about is my crochet. I have a couple of crochet pieces on the go at the moment. In August month, after I did my last video, I got it in my head that I wanted to make a daisy granny square bag for myself, like a shoulder bag, purse sort of thing. Just a casual one that I could wear during the summer or whatnot. I grabbed some yarn from my stash and made this bag. It's kind of a teal blue with off-white daisies, yellow centers, handles. So I could put it over my shoulder, of course. Here we go. All right. And the neat thing about this bag is that you only need 13 granny squares to make this. It's just the way that the granny squares are sewn together that creates the bag. Once you have them sewn together, you basically sew a ribbing around for a nice border. You add on, you crochet the handles as well. So it's all one piece. And then I went back after and added a lining, which you could hand sew, you know, in around the top, or you could use your machine. I use my machine. So it's not a great job, but it's okay. It does the trick, and it keeps my things like keys or change, what have you, from falling out between the granny square holes. So once I got this bag finished, My daughter saw it and she said, Mom, I want one of those. I had also made her a crochet sweater coat last year and finished it. Well, I guess it was this year, really, earlier this year. I finished it, and it's pink and green. So I made her a bag in that color with a pink lining. So I'll insert a picture of that here. My mom also wanted a bag. So I've now made one for her, which I just finished the crochet. She wanted a red one. So I finished the crochet. I've got the squares all sewn together. Handles are done. Everything is done. I just have to sew in this end here, these two ends. And I'm going to line this one for my mom as well with some red fabric. I just don't have it lined yet. That's the inside of the bag. So yeah, so now my sister also wants one, and she wants a pink one. So I've kind of gotten myself into a little bit of a situation now where I'm making these. I did post photos of and a reel of my bag on my Instagram, and I had some people reach out to me and ask me how I made it, and because I said you only need 13 granny squares. They were like, oh, and they don't have to be daisy squares. Any granny square of this approximate size, which I think is about 5 inches by 5 inches, something like that, you can sew them together to make this bag. So I did record a YouTube of me stitching my daughter's bag and uploaded a tutorial. Well, I don't know if you call it a tutorial, a make along. So you can follow along and make your own while I'm making that one. I explain all the steps as you go, and I show you how to make these daisy squares and how to sew them together, how to crochet the border, and how to crochet the handles, and when to sew the lining in if you want to do that on your own. So that video is on my channel. You can check that out. And last but not least, I got it in my head that I wanted to try a piece of filet crochet. Now, filet crochet is kind of lacy. It's done with crochet cotton or thread instead of yarn. So it's much finer. This is a number 10 crochet cotton in white. And I'm using a 1.5 millimeter hook. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's kind of a tiny, tiny hook. And so I decided to give this a whirl, and any pattern that is created on a grid, like a cross stitch pattern, for example, can be turned into filet crochet. You just need to figure out the gauge of your stitches and how many stitches across is going to equal to the height of your double crochet stitch to give you a square. For me, that's the magic number seems to be 3 with this crochet cotton. So every block on my chart is equal to 3 double crochet stitches wide, or a double crochet, chain 1 to create a space, and a double crochet, right? Still 3 stitches wide. So this is the chart that I picked. You know, leave it to me not to start out with something like a placemat or a, you know, nice decorative small linen looking piece. Leave it to me to decide to create this huge piece, because as my motto is, you know, go big or go home, apparently. I just jump in with 2 feet, right? So it turns out that piece, in order for me to get my square blocks, my starting chain was 439 chains long. So this is 439 stitches wide. Da, da, da. It keeps going, keeps going. I'm stitching this as a huge sheer that I can hang in the large square front window of my living room in my house. So this is what it looks like so far. You can see the double crochet border along the bottom, the spaces that are left, which are created from a double crochet, chain one, double crochet. All of these blocks are the solid blocks that have been crocheted in, so you can see the pattern starting to come out. So these would be, you can't see it very good because you almost need something dark behind it to show off. Oh, maybe this will work to show off the holes. There you go, that'll work. So you can see that I've got a background with a leaf, a flower coming out there. And then coming across, there's the edge of a leaf coming down. There's the start of the, some of the little fronds, grassy type bits at the bottom of the chart. Another little bit there. Another flower leaf there. Keep going. A couple more flower leaves there. And there. So far so good. I'm really pleased with how it's turning out. It's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. It's a little tedious because there is a lot of counting and it is quite, it's quite fine. Like the stitches are quite a lot smaller than what I'm used to when crocheting with yarn, obviously. But once you kind of got the hang of the feel of the crochet cotton, I really like it. I'm enjoying it. So I've been working on this while watching TV for a few nights, and I have 10 rows of the chart completed. So this is 10 rows high, I think, which only leaves me 200 and some rows to go. So that's it for my crafting. You're all up to speed, up to date with my adventures over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I hope you enjoyed having a look at my projects. If you have questions about any of the projects I've talked about in the video, feel free to ask them in the comments below. I do try and reply to all my comments, you know, as promptly as I can when I have the opportunity to check my messages. And if you've got questions, I'll answer them for you. And hopefully I'll see you again in another couple of weeks. Take care, have fun, enjoy your stitching, and I'll see you soon.